everyone. Welcome to SOP Photography Podcast. My name is Rosebella Abok, a leading and global customer experience professional. I'm very excited. I'm always excited about having these conversations. And you're about to meet my guest for today. We've been saying we will do this for a while, and I'm really happy that you're here. Steve has again given me this platform to have this conversation. Always exciting to record matters customer experience. And with no further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest for today. Her name is Bilha Maina. I'm very excited to have you here. Bilha, karibu.
Thank you, Asante. It's a pleasure to be here as well.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. Let's talk matters CX. Let's
Yes.
talk books. Let's talk networking. Let's talk growing your career and being passionate about the things that you do. And one of the reasons, if anyone is wondering why I am hosting you today, is the very recent awards you've won in the CX space. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Of course, I think they've given me a lot of mileage and a lot of hype out there.
Yeah.
But last year I got the honor, and it was very humbling to win 2 awards. I won the Rising Star Award through Customer Experience Management in South Africa. And then I also had the opportunity to get the Customer Experience CX Warrior Award from ICX.
Yeah.
Service Excellence. So the awards were basically based on my customer experience profession, a lot of initiatives that I've done with regards to customer experience. But the one thing I know that also gave me a lot of mileage was the research and the upskilling I've been able to do. Being able to have attained my CCXP was a very big milestone in me being a customer experience professional.
Yeah.
I was able to join the Customer Experience Professional Association Students Council. That was the most exciting thing towards the end of the year, where I'm able to then support other upcoming professionals who want to do their CCXP, how to be able to navigate, what they need to do the examination, how to pass, and how to create a formidable study plan that will help them to actually pass, because it's not an easy thing.
Yeah.
So I was so happy to be able to have that, and it's really opened up for me chances to be able to mentor people.
Yeah.
To be able to lead and coach other people, and being able to see someone say, I was able to get this certificate, or I got my CCXP, and I really want to thank you. It's been very, very wholesome for me. Yeah.
And so fulfilling. It's wonderful, and it's very powerful to always reach back, give back.
Yeah.
And the powerful testimonials around, I loved to partner with you, and now this is a milestone for me.
True.
So we've used a couple of acronyms there. So let's even start with, assuming our audience does not know about ICX Kenya as a body, then let's talk CXPA as a body as well.
True.
And then CCXP.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the ICX Kenya is the Institute Customer Experience body in Kenya, and they are a body that supports customer experience growth.
Yeah.
So they bring together a lot of organizations. They do a lot of trainings and awareness on customer experience, a lot of discussions in trying to develop the field. And you must agree, Bella, that CX is not the way it was before.
Yes.
I think it's come up very well, maybe
Yes.
for like the past 5 years.
Yeah.
So the body is local, but I do know that they've been trying to also reach out to other bodies within East Africa. This year, they partnered with the Customer Experience Management Body in South Africa for the Customer Experience Conference, the annual CX conference. And that was also a game changer.
Yeah.
Because then we were able to have more intellectual conversations and more workshops from CEM, which is something that has never been done before. Yeah. Then we have the CXPA. So that's the Customer Experience Professional Association.
Yeah.
That's an international customer experience body. And this is the association that then hosts the customer experience certification.
Yeah.
So The Certified Customer Experience Professional Certification is what we call the CCXP.
Yeah.
It's given by the CXPA,
Yeah.
international body.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're based in America.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. But they have, I think, a lot
They
of
have an
flagships all
Africa
over.
chapter.
Yes,
They do have an
yes.
Africa chapter,
Yeah.
and a couple of Kenyans
Yes.
sit on the board for the Africa chapter.
Yeah. The Kenyans are always well represented.
Yes, there's
Well,
there's a
everyone.
way. There's a way. It's part of who we are and how we show up. Yeah.
But it's a very diverse community, because even when we sit for the sessions with the customer experience student body council, you find that we're sitting with professionals from Canada. We associate with people from America. We have guys who are from Italy, Europe. I think we also have guys from the other side of Asia. Then we also have people within Africa. So we have professionals from Ghana, South Africa, then Kenya, of course, and a few others from the East Africa countries as well.
Yeah.
So it's a very diverse community, and that makes it very,
Rich.
yeah, it's very rich, it's very
Yes.
diverse, because the exchange of ideas is very broad.
Yes.
It's almost eclectic, because you get ideas from this side and then the ideas from this side.
Yeah.
So in one of the recent projects we had, we were working on revamping their website, and in that exercise we all had to give in our input on what we think can be improved on the website, and then now come back and test it later on. The feedback from now these different experts, you think about it and you're like, I didn't even think about it like that, So you learn so much from being with in these kind of spaces, and it's something that I encourage a lot of people to do.
To join.
Yeah,
To join a community. Yeah, to join a community of like-minded people who are looking to grow and to learn.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that cannot be understated, and not just in CX, but I think for anyone that's looking to grow their career, is that you must be very intentional about learning. It's like continuous learning and continuous exposure. Interestingly, we were saying how when you and I decided to read the same book together.
Yeah, yes.
And then we were exchanging notes.
Yeah.
You remember that? We were exchanging notes on, which ones stood out for you, which of the laws stood out for you. And when we kept saying it's the five, what's the law again? The one where you kind of have to prioritize your growth and knowledge and skill.
Yeah, fill your bucket in the right order.
And it's five
buckets.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's 5 buckets.
Yes.
And if anyone is very curious about the book we're talking about, it's the one that's on the table, The Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett. If you haven't read it, it's like,
Please do.
Please read it.
Why haven't you not read
Why
it?
have you not read it?
Yes. And I'm so grateful you put me onto it. Because when I read it, I was like, this book, why didn't I also I hadn't read it, and I had it all along.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was insightful. But anyway, you were saying
I was saying,
the buckets.
I was saying, let alone the buckets. You know that statement you just said about you had the book and you've been having it, it's somewhere on your shelf and you haven't read it.
Yeah.
You will not be surprised how many people have told me that.
About this same book?
No, about any other book that's on their shelf, and somehow they had started reading it, or they just have it somewhere there at the corner. So I've also fallen prey. Right now, I have a couple of books on my shelf, and they're all by Walter Isaacson. Whenever I mention, so I did not know about Walter Isaacson. Somebody mentioned him in one of the books I was reading, and then when I went looking from my service provider, they told me, you might want this, you might want this. And this guy is the one who's written about Steve Jobs.
Oh, okay.
He also wrote about Benjamin Franklin. And some of these books take him 5 to 7 years to write.
Really?
Those books are on my shelf.
Then he has
he has a book that's dedicated to innovators. So of course Steve Jobs makes it there, and there's like 4 or 3 other innovators. Those 3 books, it's almost as though I know they will change me.
Your life.
So I'm
Turn
like, am I
around.
ready? am I ready
For this kind
Am I
of
ready?
360.
I mentioned to a colleague, and they were like, you better start. Well, Walter Isaacson is the it. You better
Yeah.
start. And the fact that I hear Elon Musk went to him and said, you must write mine as well.
Oh, he's that
Yes,
good.
he's that good. And he researches. He's not in a mad hurry to publish the book. So if you hear it's taking him 5 to 7 years to
Yeah.
sit with you, to interview you, to have conversations with the people around your family, your friends, everything, and dig through all of that information and finally come out with a book.
Yeah.
Then you want him
it's
to
worth
write your memoir or
He
to
does
your
memoirs.
biography. Yes, you want him to do it. So
Yeah.
those 3 books are on my shelf. And
I've never heard of someone who's scared of the positive change the book is going to bring to
no
me.
book leaves me the same.
You're not ready for this new persona.
I'm not ready for what's coming myself. I'm not ready for what's coming.
If
So
we read this one,
if we managed
Yeah.
the 33 laws of
All-
business and life,
yeah,
when the book starts, Stephen says that these laws are universal and they will last longer than this period, and strategies come and go,
true.
but these laws will stick.
They're foundational. Yeah.
So back to the 5 buckets. I think he puts them in order, of which I think there's networking therein.
Yeah.
There's the knowledge and skills, and then there's
Yeah, so there's knowledge, and then first is knowledge.
Okay.
Then the next one is skill, then networking, then resources, then the last one is reputation. And you have to achieve the buckets in
that order.
Yes, because it says knowledge is the first one, and you can't be able to achieve any of the other 4 without knowledge. Then he says, when knowledge is converted into action, it becomes a skill.
Yeah.
So then it becomes a skill. Then when you convert it into a skill and you work on your skill, you gain value. So value is what you offer people when you're networking. And that's how you build relationships, because relationships are in twofold.
Yeah.
I offer you value, you offer me value. Then after you've now moved from a point where you're being relational is when you start to acquire a lot of resources. So either by contact, by, being more, having more worth, you're able to bring more to the table. It can be even in terms of money and income. And then that money and income and being able to give so much value gives you some element of status. You're a leader.
Yeah.
You are someone in society who can then be able to influence in one way or another, and then you get reputation. Yeah.
There's a part in that chapter that says, if you take away all these other things, like people can take away or chip away at, you might lose your network. You might lose
Your resources. Yes.
Your reputation may come into challenge.
Yeah,
but
it can be tarnished.
The things that people cannot take away from you
is your knowledge
and your skills.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, when people are continuing to fill those buckets, it's almost as though they get too busy for knowledge and skills. Now you go to campus, you get some form of higher education, and preferably it's a course you've chosen, yeah? Or even right now in the journeys we are in. And I think that's one of the things I like so much about talking to you is we are always on the same wavelength when it comes to acquiring knowledge and continued skills.
Yeah, it's continuous.
It's continuous.
Yeah.
You can't say because I now work at a certain level or I have exposure at a certain level, I do not have time to read.
Yes.
I do not have time to do a course. I do not. That narrative, it's like I just want to banish it.
Yeah, there's no end to it. And then also in the same way we were saying, there are those who feel like, there's always an emphasis on relationships is what will get you where you need to go. You need to build relationships, which I don't refuse. It's true, you do need relationships, but you can't be networking or you can't jump to that stage of networking and relationship building if you haven't really cultivated this other like internal process where you're giving value. Otherwise, it'll always be a very take and take relationship. I'm taking from Bella, I'll move and take from someone else, and then what are you going to be offering in return?
And you said it, you said value. Like, what are you, this statement for what are you bringing to
the table?
to the table.
What are you bringing to the table? Yourself.
I've seen some hilarious responses to that, where some people even say, I am the table.
Yeah.
Myself.
It's me.
Or it's not even about the table, it's about the chair. I'm like, oh my God.
No. That's missing the point.
Yeah, but we can always trade and put in humor.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I really like what you said about increased value, and then we do not stop. There's something we haven't mentioned. We've mentioned your CCXP. There's PMP as well.
Yes. And then there's my PMP. Yes.
And then I also wanted to just say, because this is one of those conversations I've also been trying to have with people in the CX fraternity, and I still maintain customer experience in itself and the practice of customer experience is not a standalone.
Yeah.
There's lots of other transferable skills.
True.
That if you have, for example, project management, driving operational efficiency and effectiveness.
Yes. Change management.
Is
a must.
So you want to tell us a little bit about PMP and also the application in terms of project management. Why did you go for PMP?
Actually, if you do your CCXP, people think that the examination is just about customer service, communication, but when you actually start to read for it, it has a lot of other theories you're going to have to know. You learn a lot about project management, you learn change management, you learn about statistics, regression analysis, Pareto charts, histograms, all those statistics, you have to understand them, about being able to calculate ROIs. It's very heavy on statistical work. There's the elements of psychology, a lot of theory on psychology that you have to understand. So by the time you get to, and a lot of aspects of governance and leadership as well.
Yeah.
So as I was studying for it, I realized that there's so much, the way they say, the more you know, the more you realize how much you don't
know.
You don't know anything.
Yeah.
And so I realized that there's a lot about completing of initiatives, because the books that you have to read throughout the course, like Chief Customer Officer
by Jean Bliss.
Yes, you have to read, and it's a good one.
Yes.
And in Outside In, yes, Outside In by Kerry. So I
haven't read it.
Oh, but it's also a good one. So when you also read through the books, there's a lot of there's a lot of storytelling about how the CX was transformed in this organization, how the challenges a particular organization faced and how they were able to do a lot of transformational changes and acquire a lot of business growth and revenue and all that. All those transformational initiatives could only be run through projects. Whatever it is that you need to do, even if it's something as simple as changing a process or implementing just an additional process, maybe in your journey, in your customer journey, you have to run it like a project for it to be successful.
Yeah.
And you also have to involve a lot of other
people.
Stakeholders. Yes. Can't do it alone.
It's always the people.
Yeah, it's always the people.
Yes.
So I knew for sure if I want to get it right, like I'll have to really understand project management.
Yeah.
And the PMP was a bit tougher than the CCXP. I don't know if it's because maybe for CX I was used to a lot of the jargon, but PMP was not an easy exam. It's not an easy exam to also sit for, because it's like 4.5 hours long, and it's there are a lot of case studies and things like that.
Yeah.
But it really opened up my knowledge, especially in terms of how to deal with stakeholders. That word, stakeholder management.
Stakeholders are a make or break,
They
you know,
are.
and you know, I can't also emphasize enough what it means to take time when you're creating like your project charter, properly defining the scope of your project, where it starts and where it ends, and then doing your stakeholder mapping
Yeah.
to really understand who you must bring into the conversation. Because there's this thing where you start to run with a project, and then somewhere along the way in your milestones is when you're telling a stakeholder for the first time ever, this is your injection into this project and we need you to come in, and
they'll
they are
be like,
thinking, oh wow, was not consulted,
Yeah.
I was not informed.
the likelihood of them buying in is like
The
zero.
resistance, they'll slow you down. And I found that when, even if majority of your stakeholders at the beginning of the project are purely under consulted and informed, I'm using RASI, under consulted and informed, you'd rather let it even be over communication. You
To all
know,
of them,
we are
yeah.
starting a project.
Yes.
It will be, and it will, and then automate weekly emails or something, updates,
Communication, yeah.
bring them along with
From
you
the get-go.
from the beginning.
Yeah.
From the beginning. And then there's the aspect, of course, of scope creep. I've run enough projects for stakeholders to see a potential huge win for them, that they start to enlarge the requirements for that part of the
Yeah.
project.
From the initial, what was in the charter.
And so you have to say, okay, I can see where you're coming from, and I can see that you want to utilize this opportunity to get the most value. However, it will come at a cost, and the cost could be time related.
Or money.
Yes,
Yeah.
even money.
Or compromise of quality.
Of
which
quality,
Is,
the triad of projects, yeah. So somewhere along the way we might have to compromise.
Yeah.
And what I've ended up doing is encouraging stakeholders and their teams to kind of learn the basics of project management. And, you know, in terms of just even taking the team through a training to say, this is how to craft your project and this is how success looks like for your project. This is what to sell. This is what to do. In comes business cases.
And never-ending use cases that are defined as we go along. Actually, I wanted to also, the way you're saying, it ends up just being scope creep at the end of it.
Yeah.
I think what I'd add to the PMP course, if I could, is first that project management on paper looks so structured,
Different.
so peaceful. We're moving from this phase to this phase, then we get to UATs, and then we close and we go live, and everyone is happy. 4 weeks we're done. When core ground, when this thing
Things
begin,
are different.
things are different. It's so, you need to not lose sight of what the end goal is, especially if you have the opportunity of steering the ship, because a lot of things change.
Yes.
A lot of expectations start coming along. Other expectations by the time you go live, you'll expect some people to be underwhelmed with the outcome of the project, even if that's what you had agreed upon. There tends to be a lot of inertia. Not everyone sees the sense of urgency that you're also seeing. So you also have to think about that in the process. The second thing I think should also be part of what especially people in the CX area need to also understand, or even just empower themselves about, is the change management process. So it's talked about, but it's touched on very lightly, because you see, the goal of project management is to see the project go live and come to its fruition. But once you deliver, who are you leaving this project to? Who's the end user? Even if it's the customer, how are you going to educate the customer?
True.
How are you going to get them to use whatever tool?
Adoption and
and
usage
and utilization is
it's
something
an
that's,
entire ball game.
yeah, and it's heavily underestimated.
Yes.
So that's how you find you cut ribbons, and you open up this thing, but then
We throw confetti.
adoption, yes, you'll throw confetti, but without change management, all
Yeah.
that work will just end up being very, very futile.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's the way and I know we've talked about change management a lot with you. How did your course go, by the way? You were doing it.
It went very well. I got certified as a global change practitioner by
Congratulations.
ProSci. Thank you, and congratulations for all your awards and your certifications as well. I just got certified this year.
Oh yeah.
And
you've completed
we went
it.
through,
I think it was last month.
last month
When
in
we were
May.
reading that
In May. Imagine how things
You're a superstar.
how things just work out as
Yeah.
well as I also do other things, because
Yes.
I'm also employed, and I'm
Yeah.
a mother, and I'm a daughter, and I'm all these things,
Well,
greatness.
yes.
And if anyone is very curious about the how do you do it all, you have to be super intentional. You have to own your day in the morning. You have to be consistent.
Consistency is so important.
You have to, it's James Clear that said, you don't fall to the levels of your
goals, you fall to the level of your system. You rise to the level of your system.
To the level of your system.
Yes.
So if you're not creating a system that enables you to succeed,
True.
And for me, I preach habit stacking all the time.
Yeah.
How I'm able to do 3 to 4 books a month is I have a 30-minute window in my morning where I consume audios.
Yeah, you told me it's the first thing you do in the morning before it's your coffee, your morning coffee.
It's the thing when I'm getting ready, and I also love it because I work from home. It gives me that flexibility. And then in the evening, and they say this, less screen time, an hour to bed and whatnot. So I substitute it with a physical book. And sometimes the book is so good you don't notice the hour go by and you've done 3 chapters.
True.
Before you know it, and you've sat up on your bed and you're busy highlighting and you're busy highlighting, and more so you're reflecting. You're in a reflective state. To say this is a part of my life that I need to look into, and this is, these are some of the questions I need to ask myself about my growth. So back to the change practitioner. I know. back to that. It was an aggressive 3-day training marked with continuous assessment and submission of a project. And that's how it's been designed.
Oh,
and
that's intense.
and even before you go into the program, you're already supposed to have come to the program with a project. So they send you a couple of pre-reads to prepare you for the course. They actually sent material in form of different books, workbooks before.
Okay.
So you could just sort of start to make yourself familiar with what's going on. But for practicality, because there's a portal where you input the details as you move through the different phases of change, you needed to come with an actual project.
Yeah. You can't come up with one on
Exactly.
the fly.
So I came up with one where I'm currently the project owner.
Okay.
That's the one I came up with. And, I thought how I'd really mapped my stakeholders. And I was like, the blind spots. During the training, I was like, oh my word, I didn't realize that there's an entire category that I had missed out on.
Oh, really? What kind of stakeholders? The ones that you're saying, the unconsulted ones, or?
Not even, I think, the definition of.
Okay.
So how they put it is that every change project has a primary sponsor. And in every change project, the person who holds the highest pillar in terms of communication is the primary sponsor and people managers. We've always just imagined if you're the project manager or the change manager that it's you who must keep communicating. The face of change and it running smoothly in the organization is the primary sponsor and people managers.
I hadn't thought about that.
So it's to equip and to empower people managers with a lot of information.
And they need to understand the vision,
They
the
need to
objective
have
behind the
bought in.
project.
Now, there's the ADKAR model, and ADKAR stands for awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, reinforcement. That part around desire, for me, it's the one that stands out. It speaks about individual change buy-in. It's not even about teams or the entire organization. You can roll out at an entire organization level or at team level, but until you create a sense of desire for the change, until people literally can see what's in it for me,
Yeah.
you might not get very far with the change initiatives.
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll come out looking like it's an instruction or a direction. A directive. It doesn't look like it's actually something that is going to work for them.
Yeah.
Change management
Change management it's big, it's huge. There's organizations that have that as a role altogether.
Someone in charge of change management after the projects are completed.
The person is literally supposed to look in across the organization in terms of the change portfolio. At any one time, a couple of things are changing. For example, when you want to implement new technology, it's not just that there's new technology coming. Probably the team structure is changing.
True.
Reporting structure is changing.
It's going to change.
Relationships with external strategic partners is changing.
There's all these guys coming in. It changes.
And it can sit under strategy as part of an actual unit of someone who's kind of overseeing and looking at all the different waves and listening to the sound of the water across the organization.
It should sit under strategy.
Yeah.
Because and it can be dynamic. Like you could be working on one thing today and you're doing something totally different after a few weeks, depending on, it's very dynamic. It's changing all the time.
It's an exciting role. Like if someone was going to specialize in it in terms of a role.
Yeah.
Now, which brings me to the other part of the discussion around the book. How we are going from book.
This is how our discussions always end up. This is how it was even last time. We started here. I don't even know. I couldn't even remember why we had even met. I don't think we discussed what we were supposed to
meet
the last time.
and for some reason, I still walked away feeling like this was a good use of my time. Because it also filled the bucket for networking.
Yeah,
you realize
it was relation. But you see, because we had content. And
we both had value. We
had value
to the table.
There was value.
Yeah.
Which other law did you like from the book?
Yeah, I liked the one. It's a bit controversial. And I think it's one of those things we can even discuss from a CX perspective.
Yeah.
It has to do with the details, and looking and focusing on the details. Like, what does it exactly read? It says sticky on the details, or what does it say? Let's see. It's like you kind of have to have an obsession around the details of what it is you do. You must sweat the small stuff. And Stephen Bartlett goes in there and he describes about his team.
Yeah.
The team where when they're doing the podcast and all of the details that go into what it is he does. He also quotes like other professionals and how they sweat the small stuff. And for me, I look at it in terms of when you're zeroing in, you can get into a rabbit hole. You can even get into analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
You're looking too much into all the details and you're not necessarily zooming out to look at the strategic vantage point. And I think the argument there would be, if we're sweating the small stuff, it is that we're doing it in a team setting. And that gives us the privilege to ensure that people can focus on particular items.
So the team is the one focusing on sweating the small stuff.
I think so.
So
I
is it
think
like
so.
everyone in the team, or how then do you go about it? Because you also don't want everyone lost fussing on the small stuff. Then you're the only one left being strategic by yourself.
And when you ask people, so action, what did we
Yeah.
actually?
They'll just be like,
What
notes,
were the
notes.
findings and what did we do? In comes, you mentioned Pareto charts and Pareto
charts.
analysis. I can't tell you how many times I say to people in CX,
Yeah.
have you, or I ask and I really want to find out in what you're doing, have you identified like the levers of what makes for good or bad experiences for your customer base in your organization?
Yeah.
And usually those are 4 to 5 drivers.
So the top 5 key pain
The
points.
rise and fall against what customers will experience, and those ones come from a Pareto analysis of
True.
you going through comments mostly that are either complaints or compliments.
Yeah, just general insights.
And looking through all of that and sieving through, and whatever analysis you're going to do, if it's sentiment analysis, and looking through all of that and realizing that 80% of the reasons that our customers are loyal to us come from
These 5.
20% of the things we're doing as
Yeah.
initiatives. And so we do not necessarily have to put our effort on all these other things. We just need to focus on the 20% that's giving us 80% of the results.
So you sweat the small stuff on the 20%.
On the 20. I know,
In
right?
short, and then you leave the rest. I think if you approach it like that, by the way, so
Yeah.
if this is the biggest issue, let's fix it and obsess over this one. But if we now do it for everything else, we end up boiling the ocean.
Boiling
Or so they like to say.
Jean Bliss says boiling the
Yeah,
ocean.
don't boil the ocean. Actually, that's one of her rules. Like, you
Yes.
can't do it all. Yeah. So if it's if you look at it like that, then you're able to, then it makes sense to
Yes.
sweat the small stuff.
Yes.
But like you said, it's a controversial law because you also can't be the one, as maybe like a leader, being the one that's sweating the small stuff. You're going to lose. You're going to lose yourself, and you're going to probably also lose the people who are with you.
True.
Yeah,
True. Then, which brings us to I think the conversation around growth in a team setting. What does that look like for you in terms of team members that do not or are not looking to grow?
Oh, okay.
Like,
yeah.
whether we are taking it from the knowledge and skill perspective or we are tying it into chasing an element of personal development.
Yeah.
And even if that looks like certifications or if that looks like mentorship and coaching. Yeah. So what's your take on team dynamics when it comes to growth?
To growth.
Yeah.
I think it's here. I have the laws here
Yeah.
that we were discussing. It's the one about absurdity will define you more than useful practicalities. That's one of the laws.
Yes.
And it's just what you had said, that maybe there's someone out there who thinks Bella is absurd because she's constantly reading 3 books a month, doing 2 courses, and then she'll finish, and then she'll pick another 5 books and do 2 courses and be in podcast. And you know there's someone who thinks, when does this ever stop?
Yeah.
Because for them, it's not practical.
It's not
a practicality,
Yes,
as the law says. It's important for people who see things differently, and it's what we're saying. People who probably believe that learning it stops, and that comes from our 844 system, by the way.
Yeah.
844 taught us now in that category.
Yes.
That
As millennials.
As millennials, that learning is a means to an end. You're supposed to learn until you get like your degree, because you're going to get a job. Once you get a job, that's it. So that's why sometimes it's often perceived that learning is something that you do until a certain point, then you stop doing it. So for team members or just maybe people around your space in general who might not see it that way, there are those who actually just need a little bit of inspiration,
Okay.
a little bit of encouragement.
Okay.
I'm sure there's someone who out there who will see you and say, I want to, if Bella can do it, I'm also going to try and do it. Or if Bella is doing it and it's working out like that, I'm also going to try. And that's the first way to actually get people around you to want to be slightly, even if it's slightly motivated, to
Yes.
even just start.
Yes.
Positive reinforcement is also a very, very big thing. There's nothing as sincere as clapping for someone else.
I know.
It keeps them going. It keeps them going.
Yeah.
And we talked about, you see, when we were talking about the awards, let's, I know maybe you can even maybe just talk about the awards that you've gotten.
Yeah.
Because I know you've gotten quite a number of awards. Even I know you've gotten quite a number of awards, but then as an example, you saying that I want to also bring other people up. And there's something you said, what's the point of me winning all these awards if there's no one after me who's also going to win an award?
Yep.
And you feel more proud when someone else does it. But
Yeah.
how do you get people there? Is it not by just encouraging them?
Yeah.
And a lot of positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
So the pace might be different for different people.
Yes.
But that consistency you have in being very, very focused inspires many people.
Yeah.
And then you just have to clap as often and as much as you need to
To keep people cheering,
Yes.
keep cheering them on. Whenever I hear the clap and keep going, I picture people that are doing races or marathons, and part of what motivates them are the as cheerleaders. Like I don't do marathons. I know a couple
Yeah.
of people that do runs and
Yes.
hikes, and I am a cheerleader.
You saw Faith yesterday. Did you see the run?
I didn't see the run.
Oh, you should have seen. There were guys even with like t-shirts written
her name.
There was such a hype in the studio. So I know what you mean by that. That's a good example.
Yeah, and you see what Faith has had to do in the back end for her to
Yes.
be in the public able to win that race is not something that we can easily appreciate. It's taken her months, if not years,
Yes.
to get her body toned up enough to clear a marathon and a race that looks like that. And so I sometimes we clap at the tail end or at victory point, and we know not of the victories
That behind the small wins.
and the having to wake up before dawn kind of situation.
Yeah.
And the diet and the and the
Sacrifice.
discipline that comes with all changing weather conditions, and you're prepping yourself for a race and for a win. And so it actually gives me a lot of joy to watch people grow over time.
Yeah.
And for them to do what I consider the back end, what people cannot
Yeah.
see. But
Yes.
then so that when they appreciate it in public, there's the story, there's the what got them there.
There's a whole journey
There
behind
is,
it.
there
Yeah.
is. And what I appreciate about the awards I've won is the onset, the one that put me on the map was during COVID.
Really?
During COVID, I was 8 months into that role. I got in, and by the time it was locked down, it was 6 weeks into that role.
Oh.
My child was 3 months old. I was happy to go work from home.
Yeah.
And like I say, my son used to feed, and his leg was on my keyboard. That's how he still walks into my work from home meetings. Like I can't keep him away from it. He's turning 6 now. Because he's grown up around mommy is working, but she can also
She has
give
time
me
for
some
me.
time. Yes, and it's a beautiful thing. So I won that award 8 months into the role.
Which
and
award was that?
It lit a fire under me. It
Yeah.
was the Wowza Award
Uh-huh.
by Rome Africa. And when the CEO was presenting that award virtually, he said when the names went up in the room of voters, it did not take them 15 seconds to arrive on me.
It was unanimous.
And it was not a debate.
Wow.
That for me was an endorsement. It was like a stamp.
Yeah.
To say, I have a young child, we are working from home, I have a team that's isolated and they don't know me. I'm the head of a function, a third of the organization is reporting into me. During COVID, we literally had to move everyone into all this is remote working. And 8
Very
months
sudden.
down the line, that recognition said to me, then I also need to get my story out beyond the borders of just my team and the people that work closely with me. I need to tell this story.
Yeah.
And so the very next year, I tell the story and it goes global now. So this is mycustomer.com saying, you're one of the top 5, I think, CX leaders globally. It was a surprise. Like when I made it to the finalist list, it was over 500 applications, or I think 1,500 applications.
Oh.
But when I made it to the finalist
finalist,
list, my LinkedIn blew up that day, and I started getting phone calls. And I was like, so what's happening? My sister says to me, haven't you seen you're a finalist in a global award? And I was like, oh my word. I did a dance and we finished. I moved on with my life. I didn't even read the part about in a month we are going to declare the winners. No, for me, the win was already there.
The finalist.
So then my LinkedIn blows up again a month later and I'm like, oh. Wow.
Wow, that's
Oh,
so
wow.
validating.
Another stamp. You need to see the letter that accompanied that award. They have quotations of 3 judges. Verbatim, what they said about the entries. The entries I made. I need to frame it or something.
You should.
Or
you should
something.
have brought it here. I would have read it out loud. You should be carrying it in your bag.
And then the third one, I was approached and I was asked to tell my story. So I tell my story in a paragraph, a couple of words, under 1,000 words. And I move on. I didn't know it's an entry to an award system. And I think also what I've learned is that there's an authenticity and a humility that's appreciated in terms of the work that you do. If you tell your story openly and well and from a knowledge sharing point of view. Yes.
Yeah.
So when I got shortlisted, this one took a different turn. They had to go into the quarters, semis, and finals, and all of this was live on YouTube.
Oh.
Yes. Head to head with another shortlisted person. And
so
the
it's
judges.
Like discussion based. You're doing discussion like debates, or it's
the judges. There's like 4 judges. For every pair of you, you get a question. And you have 30 seconds to prepare for the question. Then, for example, I answer.
Yeah.
And then you answer. On the next round of questions, we are both given 30 seconds. You answer first, then I answer.
Then the judges pick on.
Then it moved from like that, every level. So we were 8 of us at first, then 4 of us, then 2 of us. Then by the time we were 2 of us, we were now Kenyans. Both of us were Kenyans. Again, I was still doing this just for knowledge sharing.
Yeah, okay. It was just like a knowledge exchange kind of exercise.
And the organization is headquartered in India. Like they had our names printed just then and a whole cake in India with my name on it. I know, right?
That's so efficient, though.
I know, they're just waiting for the name to be announced.
And it's there.
For the name to be announced and it's out. But I say this not to say I am counting awards and this is how it works. It is to say that there's some back-end work that went into that recognition.
True. I think he talks about it in the book about being able to tell your story.
Yeah.
Because you can do a lot of background work, but then if you're not able to fully articulate and tell your story throughout, then you're not it's going to be discombobulated. You're going to be
Yes.
having the work that you're doing, but then you're not being able to represent it very well, and then you're not able to share the knowledge out
Yes.
to other people.
Yes.
And knowledge sharing is so important, especially in CX, where we're still growing and trying to exchange notes. So it's so important.
Yeah.
This book, by the way, when you think about it, it has a lot of insights with regards to customer experience.
Yeah.
The final law that I really love is the one for first shoot your psychological moonshots.
I
He
know.
called them moonshots.
I know. Just
Start with, before you look for automations and
Yes.
technology.
Yes.
First, just see how can we use the psychology of the customer to add more value. So when you're talking about, let's say, your 20% of problems in the organization,
Yeah.
he talks about things like eliminating anxiety, and
Yes.
it's called uncertainty anxiety.
Yeah.
You know how, like, in a lot of, like, maybe food apps or delivery, when you make an order, you're told your order is being collected, the rider is on the way, it's at this and this place. That's an example of eliminating anxiety for the customer, and that doesn't require much. It doesn't require, like, transformational automation. The concept of transparent operation. So being able to, for a customer to understand that this is how you arrived at charging me for maybe like a taxi ride, or this is how much you're calculating my monthly expense that you're cutting for my card. It's so important for them, as opposed to just telling them this is how much it's going to cost without any sort of breakdown.
Yeah.
But you see, if you tell them you went this number of kilometers, we charge this much for the kilometers, this is the outcome, or this is your cost. So that's now an example of a transparent operation.
Yes.
Then the last moonshot, he says, and this is, it's like, before you start sorting out issues, like, first focus on just the psychology.
Yes.
He's like, the customers remember the how the experience ends.
Yes.
The last moment of an
Yes.
experience.
It's a peak moment that sticks in their
rule. Actually, he
that-
called it,
yes, that sticks in their memory.
that sticks in their memory. So he called it the pick and rule. The way you end an interaction,
Yes.
the way you end an experience is what the customer will remember. They won't remember anything else that happened before. So you capitalize on how you conclude on interactions with the customer, or how you conclude on the last aspect of offering the customer as part of psychology. I thought that was so insightful. I was like, why have I never thought about it like that? Because we're always trying to do such big things.
Yes.
Such big things, but we haven't actually even thought, how
The
is the customer
basics.
thinking? Yeah, the
The
customer
basics.
anxiety. We've not thought about how the customer wants to remember you. And just the very small stuff, I guess. Another
Sweating
sweating
the
of the
small
small stuff.
stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was very valuable.
Yeah. I've really enjoyed our conversation. We've talked all things customer experience.
Yes,
We've combined it
because-
with transferable skills. We've talked the book
The
we
book.
both read together.
Yeah.
And it's been an awesome conversation.
Me too.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bilha. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your expertise.
Thank you for having invited me, Bella.
Yeah.
And once, as always, it's always very fresh to have conversations with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I look forward
appreciate
to it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So, everyone, thank you. I hope you've enjoyed our conversation today. As always, you know where to find us. Bilha Maina is on LinkedIn.
Yes.
You send her a message, she will respond
Yes.
to you.
Always.
Yes. And Rosebella Abok, I'm also on LinkedIn. It's been great. We would love to hear from you. Give us your comments, like, share, how it goes. Yeah. Thank you and bye.